Well, thanks everyone for joining us. This is our very first of many investor webinars coming from Ready, Set, Gold. I'm just going to go over some quick house rules. Number one, we are recording this webinar and well plan to share the presentation video on our website as well as our social channels. Your participation and interest is appreciated, so we will keep your names private. You may ask your questions at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a Q&A button. Feel free to ask your questions at the end of the presentation. We will answer all of them. Our CEO, Christian Scavena, and our VP of Exploration, Brad Lazik, will walk everyone through our investor presentation now, followed by highlights of today's news release. Christian, take it away.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sean. Just want to say thank you very much to all of our shareholders that have taken the time to attend our first webinar for Ready, Set, Gold. Ready, Set, Gold, the management team and the board directors are extremely happy to put out first 6 drill holes this morning from our maiden diamond drill campaign on our North Shore Gold Project. So as Sean mentioned earlier, Ready, Set, Gold started trading on the CSE under the ticker RDY back on January 12th, just slightly after we completed our RTO, have raised roughly about $2.8 million. Back in summer of 2020, moving into early fall, we were able to complete the acquisition of our North Shore Gold Project that was fractionally owned previously by CBLT and Balmoral, which has now been taken over by Wallbridge, but I believe Balmoral is still a subsidiary of that company. We were successful in acquiring that for 3.2 million shares and $500,000 in cash, respectively, between the two groups. One of the biggest things with Ready Set is that we have a very, very tight share structure. We have just over 29.8 million shares out. To note, we have roughly 9 million shares of that is held in a 2-year sales restriction. Those 9 million shares come from the legacy shareholders from the vehicle in which we used to complete our RTO. 3.2 million additional from the 9 million are also held in a 2-year sale restriction, and that was for the sale or the acquisition of the North Shore Gold Project. We also have some marketing partners that came in that own some shares as well, and they've done a voluntary lockup as well. So when we talk about being a tight share structure, we mean tight. We have roughly 50% of the 29.8 million shares that are free trading right now in the market as our float. Management is currently roughly about 4.5% to 5% on top of that as well. So we're all locked up as well. One of the biggest things about the company is our enterprise value compared to our peers within the gold sector. Currently, we're averaging our valuation is $6.10 US per ounce in the ground compared to our peers that are anywhere from $35 US to up to about $55 US. So the jurisdiction that we're in a mining friendly jurisdiction in Northern Ontario. We are in a superior gold belt, which is the Hemlo-Schreiber Greenstone Belt. Our flagship property is approximately 70 kilometers east of Barrick's Hemlo deposit. And I'll get Brad to kind of go more into depth on the North Shore Gold Project itself. So we have a couple of other additional projects. We have our Hemlo Eastern Flanks project, in which Metal Corps had announced in November of 2020 that they did a JV with Barrick. Barrick entered the agreement with a $3 million cash value, or $3 million cash deposit onto the company, and have also, I believe it's another 4.2 million that's committed to exploration on that property. And our two properties on the Hamel Eastern flanks, we have our north and we have our south. That particular project of Metal Corps is stuck right in between the two properties there. So, Brad, if you can go to the next slide. Excellent. So the executive team and our directors, we feel that we put together a fairly detailed team with various individuals having a broad experience within the exploration and also the resource sector itself. So there's myself, CEO and director. We have Alex McCauley, who's our CFO and also a director. We have Brad Lazich, who is on the call with us today. He is our VP of exploration, also our QP. We have a seasoned individual, Adam Schachter. Adam is also a director. He's currently managing director of mining and research over at Mackey Research here in Canada. We also have John Feltier, who's a serial entrepreneur. He's been with us since day one, since we were putting the company together. And then we also have Jason Jessup, who is a director of the company as well. So I've kind of gone through the location, our team, regarding the historical resource estimate that was completed back in 2014. We're very proud to have that resource. I think a lot of junior companies come out of the gate not really having much, more of just blue sky, and they work years to get to having a resource. So one of the main focus within our phase one drill program, it was a 2,900 meter diamond drilling program, was to understand what the historic resource had, do some confirmation drilling, which we've done, and I'll get Brad to go into that, but also to better understand and define the new model that that Brad and his team have put together. So, strategy moving forward is 100% concentration on our North Shore Gold Project. Since Brad has joined us in February, he's brought some new techniques, future interpretations and stuff in the way he's going about and his team and attacking this resource that we have. So definitely happy to have Brad on board here, and we look forward to getting the remaining results out. But what I think we can do is, Brad, if you can just kind of go into the next slides regarding the project itself, and then we can go into more depth conversation of the 6 holes that we just released this morning.
Okay, so this is an overview of our 2 main projects in the Schreiber-Hemlo Greenstone Belt. So essentially what you're looking at here is a snapshot of the belt itself. And on the very west end of the belt is our North Shore project, highlighted in red. It's just south of the township of Schreiber, about 5 kilometers south of the township of Schreiber. And it's 100% owned advanced exploration project. It's a little bit different than what the project's seen in the past. It's seen shared ownership over the last several exploration campaigns. So we're pretty excited that we have full control and we could tackle it and really exploit the potential we see there 100%. It hosts the historical NI 43-101 estimate of approximately 1.2 million ounces, and I'll kind of walk through that in another slide. The biggest thing for us now is we've spent some time over the last almost a year really developing a new geological model that matches all of the historical exploration that's taken place and what we've seen with some of the new modeling and some of the new exploration campaigns that we've done. And the biggest thing with this new model is not only does it match the regional and local geology within our project area, but it also opens up a lot of new underexplored potential on strike and at depth in and around the Afric and north of the Afric, and which I'll kind of walk through in one of the future slides and showing what that represents and why we think that. The The other project we have that Christian mentioned is more of a greenfields project. It's called Hemlo Eastern Flanks. It's approximately 5 kilometers east of the Hemlo mine. What we have there is 2 very broad, large regional land packages. One is the Hemlo Eastern Flanks North, and one is South. Both of these are 100% owned. Another big thing about this one that we recently discussed and released publicly is that we put out a new interpretation through some compilation of historical work that's been done that suggests and supports a really strong geological and geophysical trend from the Hemlo deposit itself onto our property. And we view this as a really strong, significant opportunity for a new blue sky discovery. So I'll walk through some of that in one of the slides as well.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this going now, we'll go into North Shore. So this is an overview of our North Shore project. So what we're looking at here is a plan map of the North Shore project claim boundary, which is in black. The claims actually extend up to the north, but just for the purpose of this presentation and context of our exploration efforts, we're just focusing on the southern part of the project area. So what we're showing here, high level, is our new geological interpretation, which is shown through these series of subparallel gold zones or gold structures that are shown in black. These structures are hosted within approximately 1 kilometer, a little over a kilometer wide deformation zone that strikes northwest southeast, where my cursor is. This deformation zone and these structures are within a regional package of volcanics and porphyritic intrusives, which are stratigraphically in that same strike direction as our zone or gold zones and as the deformation events, which is in this direction as well. So our first structure that we modeled up that we see at the North Shore project, what we're calling is the Zone A structure. It hosts the historical Afric deposit. It's characterized by very broad, disseminated, brittle to brittle ductile shear zone with higher grade lenses within. And we'll walk through that in a bit more detail, but basically it remains open on strike outside of the Afric zone for over a kilometer, and it remains open down dip of the Afric zone below 250 meters. The next zone that we've modeled that we see is called Zone B. It's about 150 kilometers northeast of Zone A. It's a parallel broad gold structure, very similar in nature to Zone B, what we're seeing. It virtually remains unexplored. It's very underexplored. There is drilling in it historically, and I'll walk through some of the details on that in the next slide. But in terms of geology and alteration and structure, it's very similar to Zone A. It's very broad. It hosts sheared porphyritic intrusive and intercalated volcanics, with broad disseminated pyrite mineralization, broad gold zones that we're seeing in our phase run results, and also within it very concentrated, intense structures and quartz veining, parallel and subparallel to this overall zone. The third zone above that is called Zone C. It remains unexplored. There's 2 historical holes in it on the east end. One of the highlights from those historical holes is 11 grams over 20.1 meters. So we are excited about this structure. We need to do a little more work to further understand it, but based on our fall mapping campaign and some of our modeling, it does look real, and there's some grab samples that support that. And the fourth structure above that, about 200 kilometers north of Zone C, is called the Geno Zone structure, also underexplored. I think it hosts around 5 to 6 historical holes with highlights of 17 grams up to over 3 meters. A little bit different in nature than the 4 zones below it. It's a little more analogous to a Red Lake kind of mesothermal quartz vein type high grade veining, but basically this remains open on strike as well and down dip past 200 meters. And then the last zone, part of this broad deformation package, is the main vein structure, which hosts the historical production adits that were developed in the 1930s that produced 2,400 ounces at a little over 18 grams. That hasn't seen any modern exploration via diamond drilling, and we've done some surface sampling and mapping around that in the fall that supports that interpretation. So basically, we see a unique potential within this concentrated footprint for two different styles of deposits: a near surface, high tonnage, and bulk mineable lower grade deposit that we see in the African and Zone B and potentially Zone C with higher grade lenses within it. And we also see some deeper, higher grade, underground potential type deposits in the Chino and potentially down dip of these structures and the main vein structure. Okay, so this next slide is an overview of our new geological model in comparison to what previous operators and owners were using historically. Historically, how North Shore was interpreted was basically as a very broad shaped gold zone hosted in one large felsic intrusive body. There was no real strong understanding on the geological model and structural constraints on the gold mineralization, which really limited the exploration potential on strike and at depth. How we're approaching it now and what we see in the data is a series of these structurally controlled brittle to ductile shear zones that are subparallel with the strike of the regional geology, which is the felsic volcanics and porphyritic intrusives. And basically, these zones are controlled by two deformation events that happen within this broad deformation package. The first event was a stratigraphy parallel shearing that emplaced the porphyritic intrusives within the volcanics in this orientation. And two styles of gold mineralization associated with this vent that we see in the zones. The first is primary gold mineralization controlled by hydrothermal fluids during the emplacement of the porphyritic units itself, which is typically what we're seeing as lower grade gold mineralization. And then we're also seeing these broad zones of stockwork and really intense alteration that also host low to medium grade mineralization associated with this event. The second event that we see, which complicates things a bit, but it's a second deformation event along these shear zones, stratigraphy parallel shear zones, but in an opposite direction. It was later, and it resulted in the emplacement of the shear extensional and extensional high-grade quartz veining type veins. So all of these are controlled within these very broad zones and these lenses of mineralization, and we see them as being stacked subparallel on trend with regional geology. And the biggest thing for us now is that it focuses gold into more discrete lenses with more predictable geometries, which is beneficial for us, not only for better understanding how to exploit moving forward with exploration, but also in better understanding how to put together a more predictable and understandable and tighter resource. Okay, so this is a snapshot of some of our exploration results going back from our summer-fall surface mapping and sampling campaign through to the first 6 holes of our phase 1 diamond drill program. So what you're looking at here on the left side of the page is a plan schematic within the North Shore area. So showing those 5 zones that I talked about previously. So we'll start with some of the results from our summer-fall exploration campaign. So what we saw in our mapping is we saw a lot of significant shearing and evidence for that model that I just discussed in terms of this deformation zone with generally east-west shearing, and placement of porphyritic units and quartz veining shear parallel and extensional. And some of our fall exploration sampling, we took some grab samples along these structures, and some of the results came up to 300 grams per ton. So I'll walk through the first, so going to our diamond drill program now, I'll walk through some of the first 6 holes. So the first hole, 59, it was designed to intersect the Zone B structure and understand some of those extensional and shear extensional vein sets. It was successful. The biggest and the best part of the hole, was near the bottom of the hole, which intersected 94 meters at 1 gram per ton, right at the heart of what we're calling the Zone B structure, right on strike. So not only does it add gold and to our resource in this one area where there wasn't high drill density or no drilling, but it also gives us strong confidence that this structure is real. There's also two intersections above that, which I'll show you in the next slide in cross section. Second hole was 60. So 60 was drilled in a similar orientation to some of the holes historically, and not perpendicular to these new structures. We were testing to see if there was any extensional connection between the Afric and a part of Zone B, and it came back 1.54 grams per ton over 4.4 meters. Next hole, 63, was a hole that we put at a better angle, so more south to north within the Zone B structure. This hole I view as a very big success in the sense that there wasn't much drilling historically in this orientation. Most of the drilling was sub-parallel to these structures, and they were targeting high-grade extensional veins. This hole came in at a proper angle and hit 1.3 grams over 16.8 meters of really consistent gold mineralization, which is a very encouraging sign that there's a real strong connected gold system on Zone B. So I was really encouraged by that result. 64 was a hole coming into an area of confidence within Zone B that didn't host high drill density, and confirmed the geometry and orientation of this area of Zone B, 1.6 over 14.3. And then 67 was into the Afric zone, into an area of the Afric zone where there was low drill density, targeting high-grade mineralization, but the hole was designed to come in south to north at a different orientation than the historical drilling, which was in this direction, to confirm the geometry and understand grade distribution through the zone. And it was an extreme success in it almost intersecting a gram over 80 meters of consistent gold mineralization throughout the zone with some higher grade lenses within. The next schematic to the right is a cross section AB through all of the structures, a vertical cross section, and we're looking to the northwest. So we're standing back here and looking in this direction. Walk you through quickly Zone A. So we just went through the results of 67. So this shows 67 in cross section, showing where the 79 or the 80 meters of broad mineralization was. It's right where the Afric zone is, confirming the geometry. Big thing to note about the Afric here is it virtually remains unexplored past 250 meters depth. Zone B, this is where 63 came in cross section, right above this area of more confidence, zone of mineralization in Zone B, confirming the Zone B structure in this area, and growing the resource up dip. And then just for quick context, these are some of the historical results on the Geno zone structure. So high grade over short intervals, suggesting a little bit of a different deposit type than A and B, more kind of Red Lake mesothermal high grade quartz veining style deposits. And then just a location of the historical adits on the main vein structure. So we'll go back. So the next image is a cross section CD through this area as well, kind of showing the results of 59 and 64 on the Zone B structure. So again, this is a cross section. We're looking northwest. This is what hole 59, the geometry of hole 59 looks like in relation to Zone B. This is the top zone of mineralization that we intersected, kind of on the periphery, on the upper part of Zone B, where there was no drilling historically. So potentially growing the resource out to the south. So 1.26 over 20.45. Same thing with this intersection, around 100 meters depth on zone B. Again, 1 meter over 20 meters, 1 gram over 20 meters, growing the zone out to the south as well. And then the big one for me is this big intersection kind of down dip of zone B, where we didn't really have a good understanding of geometry. And this really confirms the vertical nature of these kind of east-west trending zones. Another big thing to point out on this slide is, this is just one snapshot through the area, but you can see how underexplored these structures are and how underexplored North Shore is. And we did a quick calculation. It's about 95% of this immediate project area to the east remains unexplored above 300 meters depth. So a lot of potential for growth and discovery. So this is our initial analogy, just to get a feel and an understanding for the size and potentially great potential at North Shore. We're doing a comparison to Hemlo, which I think is representative, considering we're in the same greenstone belt. There are similarities that we're seeing, some similarities between the two deposits geologically. There are some differences, but it's still pretty early. But I think the biggest thing that we could use as an analogy that gets us excited is when you look at the contained gold thus far in North Shore versus Hemlo. So how we see it and how we've modeled it is, when you look at Hemlo above 300 meters depth in the known zones, they have approximately 1.5 to 2 million ounces of contained gold above 300 meters at an average grade of about 1.5, 1.6 grams per ton. When you look at North Shore thus far, based on our historical estimate, we're around 1.2 million ounces gold above 300 meters. And that, as I was displaying in the previous slides, those sub 300 meters on the project area remains 95% unexplored. So, very exciting thought to think of. And we have all the right technical evidence that suggests that there's significant potential for growth above 300 meters. Another big thing to note is that at Hemlo, as you get below 300 meters, the grade significantly increases. So you're getting down into the deeper roots of the system. And at North Shore, we don't really have any exploration below 250 meters. So we're excited to start kind of continuously modeling and understanding how we can grow these deposits at depth and see what the indications are for higher grade. And just a quick snapshot on our historical resource estimate. We have a little over 12 million tons in the indicated category at 0.99 grams per ton for almost 400,000 ounces of gold. And we have a little over 25 million tons at 0.87 in the inferred category at about 124,000 ounces of gold. Big thing to note here for us is we view the North Shore project as an opportunity, as I was displaying in some of the previous slides, to really get a good, strong understanding of the geometry of these lenses and of these zones, put our own resource together, tighten things up, and display how we could efficiently and economically grow these zones on strike and at depth. So on to Hemlo Eastern Flanks. This is a snapshot of our project. You're looking at geological plan maps for both the north and south claim blocks. So, high level overview, the north claim block sits right adjacent to the Cedar Lake Pluton. It's about 5.5 kilometers east of the Hemlo camp. A recent compilation that we just completed suggests that geologically and geophysically, our property position is on the interpreted gold trend from Hemlo. As this trend enters our property on the north package, we see evidence of, through historical mapping and government geophysics, see evidence for really complex structural folding within the volcanics and sediments. right adjacent to the Pluton, which is a very similar setting to Hemlo, which is very exciting for us to start understanding a little bit better. And then the image below this just shows the support from the government geophysics. You can see this magnetic lineament coming from Hemlo and entering our property and being tightly folded against the Cedar Lake Pluton. So we see it as a very structurally complex and favorable setting for a very large gold system. And our plans, this year we're going to start systematically exploring this through detailed mag and potential soil surveys, depending on outcrop exposure, and following up on discrete targets that we generate and hopefully generating some drill ready targets in the near term. And then as Christian mentioned, our two properties are kind of sandwiching Metal Corp ground, which is right below us, where Barrick recently entered. And then our last project at Emmons Peak, right now we're in the process of optioning into it. It's within the Wabigoon Greenstone Belt and on trend from the Treasury's Goliath Gold Lund project. And we have an option to acquire 100% over 3 years by making $75,000 and issuing 400 shares. So we're in the process of evaluating this and potentially doing some work on it this year as well. That's it for me. Christian, did you want me to close this deck?
Perfect. Yep, you can go ahead. That's great. Thank you very much, Brad. Sean, if you like, maybe, I know there were some questions that have gone back and forth, but if you like to open up the attendees so they can ask some questions, and we're more than happy to answer those questions, and we'll stay open for another 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, the first one is for Brad, of course. Have the parallel veins lateral strike length been mapped? Seems there are several additional veins outside of the resource area.
Yeah, so let me further expand on that. So it's a little more complex than being actual quartz veins. So what we're seeing at North Shore, those east-west structures I was showing you are these very broad controlling structures, gold structures that host parallel stratigraphy shearing. Within these structures, there was emplacement of these porphyritic intrusive bodies that host lower grade disseminated gold mineralization. And then these structures were reactivated, and within them, there was different events of quartz veining within them. So the quartz veining within these east-west kind of broad zones vary in orientation, depending on if it was a dextral or sinistral type shearing event. Historically, and in our recent mapping campaign, we do see these high-grade narrow quartz veinings within these broad zones that are parallel in the same orientation. And we also see a northeast kind of perpendicular vein set, which are more extensional and get us excited because these zones are, very broad and wide and show that they've been opening and host these high-grade extensional veins. And if you're familiar with some of the historical work, those veins are what they call the Odney and the Cali veins.
Further to that, Brad, lateral lengths of these veins and how long of the strike have been mapped?
Yeah, so the historical North Shore vein has been mapped for, I believe it's 800 meters. That's the vein that's seen the historical production. We haven't drilled that. There's been no drilling on that vein historically. I believe there's 3 holes in the 30s, but there's no data, public data out there on that information. The Geno vein has been mapped, I believe, for 200-300 meters, and we've taken what we're interpreting as the strike extent of that to the east, where we see a similar vein on strike that we've traced for about anywhere up to, I think it's 75 to 100 meters. So we're interpreting that to be connected. And then when you get down to Zone A and Zone B, there are these very broad, wide shear type zones that are hosting porphyritic type intrusive, so similar to Hemlo. And the veining in there can get very complex, but we see evidence of high grade grab samples and similar porphyritic type rock and alteration and quartz veining on strike for up to 300-400 meters.
Perfect. And the next question, which I'm going to give a little context before I go into the question, but it's a good question. So in August of 2016, the former fractional operator GTA Mining and Resources put out initial metallurgical test for the North Shore project. They were testing, I believe it was the Afric zone, and the test came back, very positive. Peak gold recoveries of between 96.3% to 99.5%. So the question, and I know forward-looking statements, of course, let's just say that, preface that, but the question is, how do you envision future production will be like? Would we need to do milling, or is there a mill nearby, or what would that process potentially be? That's a tough one.
Maybe Christian could help me.
Yeah, I think I would love to state that we could move in that direction and start producing and using a mill. There is a mill close by down the road from the North Shore Gold Project, but I think the main focus here for the company is just to better understand and also increase the resource that the company has. Given that it is a resource estimate. We would want to get through the first phase of the phase one of our drill program. Sit down with Brad and the team and figure out exactly what we have here. And, we are currently, moving forward with putting together plans for our phase two program. So I think it's very early to answer that question, but I hope it's a question that we can proudly answer, that the company will be going into some sort of small scale production sometime down the road. So.
Yeah, and further to that, just for the context, feel free to go to GTA's news release from 2016 and look at what they did for extraction process test to understand, because those are really great returns for a gold extraction potential, and there are operating mines nearby that we can allude to, but yeah, it is very early stage. Moving forward to the next question, and this is actually really good, which Brad can handle, because the whole point of doing this maiden drill program is to better understand the structure and the potential and to confirm the interpretation that we see. And so the question is, are you planning any deep drill holes once drilling resumes, and that will be when spring break delay, or when will that be? So, go ahead.
So our approach here is, I believe, the proper approach, and we're going to be doing systematic exploration throughout all of our campaigns at North Shore. So our phase one project was designed in and around areas of the known resource. We did put holes at a different orientation, testing our new model. We did put holes into areas where there was little to no drilling in proximity to the historical resource. Outside of that, we've done surface mapping, and we've done geophysics, surface geophysics, air geophysics. We've done all that to confirm and help us understand this model. Now, moving forward, before we start putting deep holes, again, we have to, continually test and systematically explore these structures on surface, and start, with shallow drill holes and work our way down. But we do plan on putting some deeper holes in areas of our known resource, like the Afric zone, that is, an indicated category that has a lot of confidence in it. We understand the geometry now, so we will start to grow that down dip at some point. And also in and around the Chino, we'll probably put some holes down dip of some of those historical intersections. And also in parts of the B zone now that we have a strong understanding of, we will likely put some holes down dip. But probably the majority of the growth is going to be on strike, just to de-risk and work our way from surface down, which is the proper approach.
Perfect. And then just comment on the laboratory process. We know in North America, with COVID last year, it was some major delays. So how has that been for us? How is the labs process?
In the beginning, I say for these first 6 holes, we did see quite a bit of delays. I don't know if it's a COVID issue, but I think there's also a very strong market demand right now in exploration in Canada. in North America and globally. So we did see a bit of delay in that front. I think things are getting a little bit better. I don't see it in regards to any of the logistics for our programs, regarding sampling or contractors or timelines for any of our programs. I don't see any implications due to COVID at all moving forward. Everything's been pretty good on that front.
Perfect. I think we've answered all the questions. If there's any lasts, we'll wait about 30 seconds, or else if you guys want to close with some final statements. Oh, sorry.
Yep, someone
Evan, you asked a question. Let me just find that. Yes. Do you guys know of any company in the world that has 1.2 million ounces near surface with 400,000 ounces indicated with a market cap of 8 million or less? What do you think the true value is relating to the rest of the market?
Evan, Evan, I can answer that for you. So there's definitely been a lot of discussion around on various discussion boards regarding Ready Set and the resource that we have. To my knowledge and to everyone on the team, there is no other company, given our market cap and the resource estimate that we have. There's no one else out there that comes close to us. As per the value, what we're really worth right now, that's always a tough question to answer. People always ask me where the stock price should be. Well, obviously higher than where we're at right now. But I think to be conservative, roughly about a $25 million market cap plus. If you take that into consideration with the resource estimate that we have, that put us at roughly around $42 per ounce USD.
Probably to also answer that, looking at today's news release with the first 6 drill holes and stuff, it's the upside potential of growth, and not just in the Afric area, but in the B zone and the other zones going north. There's a lot of potential to grow, and so we are definitely very, very low valued for what we know now, but there's a lot of true upside moving forward. Go ahead.
And I think another aspect to that too is what our new model is showing is the actual, specific, predictable kind of zones that have a more specific orientation and geometry. Is that our resource is gonna be more economic and extractable and potentially a little bit higher grade moving forward when we start exploring it on strike and down dip. So that's another piece to look at too.
Yeah. And I think, everyone's, the anticipation has been there for, the company to release the results from the phase 1. Keep in mind, this is 6 out of 13 holes. We are, seeing some really good rocks in the remaining 7 holes. So, we're encouraged by what we're seeing, and we just have to wait for those tests to come back, and then we'll release those to the market. Time frame. Everyone's asking time frame on that. I'm hoping next week we could have something out, but we just want to be realistic and conservative. 2.5 to 3 weeks for the remaining holes to come back. But I think one of the key points to take away from this first 6 holes is that, we intersected, in all the holes, some very robust gold mineralization, and that's something to be proud of, and also keeping in mind that the area that we're looking at only represents roughly 5% of the whole area that we have within the North Shore project, and given that phase 1 has been concentrated on the resource, once we start to move out and move into, say, for example, the Geno vein, we'll have hopefully some good results up there. But we are definitely encouraged as a company by these first 6 holes, and we look forward to putting the remaining 7 holes out.
Perfect. That's a good segue into the next question. Are insiders currently blocked from purchasing more common shares of the company in this time frame?
Yeah, absolutely. We are. I constantly, refer to our council and asking because I would love to pick up more shares myself in the open market, and I think I speak on behalf of the other executives on the team itself that I think we have something very good here. Super cheap right now. And yes, I would love to, or we will be increasing our ownership as an executive team moving forward. But once the blackout period has been lifted, once all the news is out, that's when we can start moving into the open market and purchasing.
Perfect. And this looks like a question for myself. So expecting any newsletter writers coming with write-ups on us, and what would future marketing look like? To answer this, essentially, initially we have shareholders that are newsletter writers, very well-known names in our industry that we brought on during the IPO, and that's great, but they haven't really taken us up yet. But just with the news today, it's really important. So we've really focused on reaching out to specific people, people that could get the possibilities of the upside here. So we do have a lot of connections within the newsletter writer world and the markets, and we reach out consistently to everyone we can think of that could get behind us. We're still doing best efforts currently, and just in regards to marketing. So we are in the process of getting our OTC listing. We did get FINRA approval, which now you can see we do have a US ticker symbol. So that's the first step. Now we'll move forward to getting a potential QB listing. The US market is something that I personally feel would love a story like us with high upside value and building systematically and whatnot. So definitely that's our focus, just like it was our focus in Europe. So those efforts are happening day by day. Christian, you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I think obviously anytime the company can expose itself to new shareholder base, it's something that we definitely welcome, and I think any other company would welcome. One thing I do want to mention is that Ready Set Gold has a fantastic shareholder base. Obviously, we acquired some shareholders through the amalgamation, and then going into our RTO in January, but we also have and they've been fantastic shareholders to date so far, and we also have a broad range of shareholder base out of Germany and also other German-speaking countries over in Europe and that. So I'm in constant contact with a lot of the German shareholders. The German shareholders are typically long-holding shareholders, which we like, and they're very involved as well, so which is fantastic. So I think, with bringing on, having exposure to the OTC, and eventually, as Sean said, we'll move forward to have an OTC QB listing, that will just help our cause even more.
And it looks like that was the last question. Any final remarks before we close?
No, I think just want to thank everyone for taking the time. My email and phone is always open to all of our shareholders. If you're not a current shareholder and have further questions, by all means, feel free to reach out to myself or to Brad Lazich. You can also reach us on our website at www.readysetgoldcorp.com, and feel free to sign up for our emails as well, our press releases.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Christian.
I think there's one question that just came in.
Okay.
It says, will you guys drill some holes? Sorry, where did it go? Just lost it.
Yeah, some holes in Hemlo Flanks deformation zone in the next program.
So I could answer that.
Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, so like I said, like I mentioned previously, our approach to Hemlo Eastern Flanks is going to be systematic, through it step by step to de-risk it. And the first thing we're going to do is a mag survey to better understand the structures. Once we understand the structures, we're going to follow up with either surface mapping or soil surveys. Once we generate, anomalies and targets from that, then we're either going to trench those to further de-risk them, or, depending on exposure, we may go and the quality of the anomaly, we may go and start drilling. So it's going to be a phased program. I would expect drilling, probably, I would say, next year sometime, as we'll be, doing some surface work this year. But to answer your question, we will be drilling there at some point, correct?
There was one last question here. Question is, are officers of Ready Set Gold, are they full-time or do they have other gigs on the side? So I appreciate that question. For myself, I am 100% into this company, being the CEO and director of the company. Brad Lazich, who recently came on in February to the company, a VP of exploration. This is his full-time gig as well. Our CFO, Alex McCauley, he does have one other client that he manages as well, so he splits his time 50-50. But hopefully that answers your question.
Perfect. And then just that 4% ownership has already been answered, where we're essentially in a blackout because of the information we know about what's going on with the remaining drill holes. So after that, we are potentially, we're allowed to participate in the open market.
Absolutely.
And with that, let's just complete. Like Christian says, all of us are available. This is your company as well as shareholders. And we'd love to go into details or discussions anytime. Thanks, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys.